Alright everybody, welcome back to First Attack. Today is 2014 first installment of Ask jchensor. Again, if you guys have any questions about the FGC, whether it be lingo, community-based, strategy-based, anything that you want, you can always send me a question at UltraChenTV@gmail.com. And every once in a while, I will do an Ask jchensor episode where I respond to as many of the questions as I possibly can get to within the hour that I am allotted. So let's go on to the next question. A rather long question, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, this person has been using Octogates on his joystick. If you guys don't know, all the standard TE sticks these days come with square gates. That's why when you move the joystick, you can feel the corners in particularly easily. But for the Octogates, you can feel all 8 positions. There's the joystick basically rides inside an octagon, and each of the corners rests where the joystick can rest in all 8 directions. So he says he's been doing that, and he's been learning Third Strike, and he loves Third Strike. But he can't seem to do charge partitioning with Urian very well. He says he understands the whole entire concept of charge partitioning, but he's unable to perform it very well. So some of the questions that he had here, is he limiting himself in terms of the Octogate? At this point in time, honestly, I don't think there's any form of controller that's limiting anybody. I've seen players do the craziest things on any given form of controller. At the runback, for example, Mini Boss. He's a player who has the craziest combos. He does just crazy. He does flames with the Faultine loops. He does all these things. Plays on an Xbox 360 pad. I hate that thing. I cannot do combos on that thing to save my life. And he's doing it just fine. No problem. Obviously... we've been playing on Octogates and Perfect 360s in the arcades for years and years and years, and it really hasn't held us back from anything. It's just the standard has become the square gate, and so that's what everybody's used to now. But it definitely, there's no one preferred thing over there. The Hitbox, another controller that a lot of people are getting at, has no joystick. You'd be surprised at what your brain can get used to control-wise. I mean, you can pretty much manage to do everything. So it is definitely not holding yourself back. And he asks if he's limiting himself in regards while riding the gates in the first place. On an octagon gate, that is actually something that a lot of players do naturally. If you move to a square gate, I totally recommend not riding the gates, learning not to do that. But on an octogate, it's fine. And does he need to overcome any of these limitations to learn something like Urian charge partitioning? No. Charge partitioning you should be able to do. People have been doing charge partitioning on American arcade sticks forever now, which are all Octogates or Perfect 360s. So it's definitely not a problem there. So he says he can execute everything in Street Fighter 4 and have no issues. Street Fighter 4, for one thing, is so much easier to do everything than it is in all the other fighting games. I find myself fumbling on Third Strike all the time trying to get things out. The leniency of Street Fighter 4 is ridiculous. He also asked, does he accept that sticks aren't the way to go and buy himself a hitbox and be done with any ambiguity? You know what? Keep going with the joystick. You're used to it. You can get used to it. You can do charge partitioning. The only thing is, if you are still watching, and you do want to respond to this, this is from Jamie W. here, by all means, send me an email again about charge partitioning, because charge partitioning is a very, very high-level Third Strike technique, and a lot of people who have told me that they understand how charge partitioning works didn't really understand how charge partitioning works. I know I didn't play much Third Strike, but I do know how charge partitioning works. I understand how it works, why it works, and stuff like that. So if you send me an email and just kind of talk to me about it, because it is likely that maybe you're just not understanding it as well as you think you do, and that's why it's not coming out. And there's a lot of issues like overcharging before the charge partition and thinking you can still hold it, which you can't. and all this other stuff going on. So definitely send me an email if you're still watching and let me know. Let me know how you understand charge partition, and I can correct you via email if it happens to not be the case. So let's see here. Next question. Next question is from Jonathan S. He has a very basic question here. He says he's getting into fighting games. He's a musician and an avid Bimani player. At one point in time, he was even competitive in DDR, 2DX, the pop and music games. So execution and timing are things that he's not finding that hard to pick up in training mode. What he's having trouble with is actually following through with a strategy in a fight. He's tried playing online to practice against other people, but he gets bodied. He feels like when he goes into a fight with an idea of what I should be doing, it all goes out the window once the fight starts. He starts to fall back on bad ideas and beginner mistakes. This kind of goes back to all the first episode I did this year, which was the Losing Sucks episode, where I just basically talk about beginner strategies and stuff. You have to... It's hard. A lot of people I've talked to have described this problem where they have the game plan, they've read all the forums, they understand what they're supposed to do, but as soon as they go into the game and play, their strategy goes to pot and they just get killed and die. And the reason why this happens is because, like I said, one of the hardest things about fighting games is always that you have to go against your natural human tendencies. And one of the biggest human tendencies is to, what do you want to call it? Like run away, like what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Basically what you do is you retreat into a safety zone. So if you start getting hit a lot in a fighting game, you just clam up and you start blocking a lot. You abandon your game plan. You abandon your strategy. Like you're trying to learn footsies. You go up and play footsies. You get swept a couple of times, and then you just get scared. You start blocking a lot. The guy throws you, kills you, and then you're dead. And you're just like, I don't know what happened. I know what I'm supposed to do. How do you get past this? And honestly, just like with footsies, how I talked about earlier, where Vi said walking forward in footsies is all about bravery. It's kind of the same thing in fighting games. You are going to get bodied a lot, and the only way you're going to get yourself out of some of these habits is to just keep letting it happen and keep trying to apply your game plan. So let's say you're trying to learn footsies. Go up to the opponent, try to fight him. If they keep beating you with footsies, don't retreat into the natural human reaction, which is to become scared and to clam up. Just keep doing it. See, the key right now is that that when this happens to you, you're focusing too much on winning. And so when you start to get hit, you're like, no, I don't want to lose, so I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to go away from my strategy. I want to go away from what I'm learning. But if you're playing to learn, and you say you play a game and you play around and you start with footsies and he sweeps you a bunch of times, but then you keep going at it and then you walk outside of his sweep range and the guy sweeps and you whiff punish him, that is a victory. That is a victory right there, because normally what happened is you would get scared and stop trying it. But this time you stuck it through, he swept, you swept him back. Even if it happened once and then the guy just destroys you for the rest of the round, you technically won, because you have now done something that you haven't done before. You haven't landed that whiff punish before. So what happens then is the next time you play, you may land 2 whiff punishes and get destroyed. Still a victory. And then as you keep playing, you're going to find out you're going to start naturally looking for these whiff punishes a little more, naturally learning how to poke, naturally figuring out the ranges a little bit. And what happens is, as you keep getting into that, it's going to become, the more natural something becomes, the less brain power you have to devote to it. That's just the key. That's actually probably one of the key concepts to fighting games, is you want to devote as little brain power to every aspect of your game as possible. So once you get really good at footsies, you devote so little brain power to that. Now you can concentrate on landing a combo, a crazy combo, or concentrate on making sure you anti-air the opponent, that they never jump in on you, etc., etc. Once you start getting really good at anti-airing someone, you devote less brain power to that process, so you can do something else now better. That's pretty much how it all works out. So when you're playing online and someone starts beating you up, you know, one thing is when you get scared, the opponent who's better than you will read the moment that you get scared, and now suddenly he's going to be able to get in on you and throw you and walk forward, like we were talking about earlier, very easily, and just rush you down. So if you actually just keep playing offense, keep running into their moves, keep getting blown up, you're actually going to learn something, and as you keep learning those things, you will get better. So that's definitely something that you want to try to do, is to don't abandon your game plan. Don't focus so much on trying to win the game, but try to focus on winning small goals and getting things right. So there you go. Good question, John S. Thank you. So let's see here. Next question I have. This is actually a good question from John L. And I apologize about this because he basically asks about Sagat's mid-range. He's been seconding Sagat recently, but what happens is he gets in trouble at the range of about Ryu's crouching medium kick. Whenever he gets into this range, he's not sure what to do, and he just gets beat up, and he resorts to focusing a lot. And he's trying not to focus too much because it's been getting him killed, but then he just sits there and blocks, and then all this bad stuff happens to him. Honestly, I don't know Sagat well enough. You know, he asks, is there a way to land a safe tiger knee in this range and such? I don't know Sagat well enough. I don't have as much experience with him. I know in Ultra things are going to change if short really can be canceled into Tiger Shot. That'll help a lot. EX Tiger Knee is always a good thing to try to get you out of trouble because it's -1, soon to be 0 in Ultra. But also standing medium kick, if I'm not mistaken, is a really good poke. But I'm not the best Sagat. If people out there who are watching this are good with Sagat and want to help John here, please send an email to me at ultrachentv@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to read some of these responses to John's question, who can help, you know, both of us out and understand Sagat a little bit better. Okay. So next question I have here. That was an interesting question. Someone named Alan here is responding to my Losing Sucks episode, and he really enjoyed just, you know, talking about how it is that you try to teach things and you know, having trouble approaching stuff. And he was actually really wondering, because, you know, in that episode I emphasized, and just now I emphasize, you know, not necessarily trying to play to win the game, but to win little victories and learn mental strategies. And in fact, I do this all the time in video games. I should mention this as well. Let me tack on to the previous question. I will do things over and over again just to feel how it feels to use it in battle. So for example, Johnny in Guilty Gear, his standing kick is jump cancelable, and at the range that the standing kick hits at the very tip, it's easy to Tiger Knee and Senga and get an overhead, one of Johnny's only overhead moves in the game, especially for that range. And so, even if I know my opponent sees that I'm doing this a lot and is going to block high all the time, I don't really care. I'm just going to keep doing it just so I can get used to using it in combat. And that's what I mean. So I'm not playing to win necessarily. I'm just I'm getting my hands used to it. I'm getting used to it being in my mind. I'm getting myself used to having it as an option. So what he asks here is, I don't know if you were influenced by this or not, but what you said about enjoying the process of growing as a player being the key to having fun is similar to what Daigo has said in many interviews, and he quotes a Daigo quote here. Daigo explains that he viewed the winning or losing of the match at hand as unimportant. He said that if you only focus on winning at the moment, you aren't going to keep winning in the long run. Daigo also remarks that his goal was never to win, but to work hard to enjoy the hard work that leads to victory, and that every match is truly a battle against yourself above all else. People who focus solely on the winning and losing of it all are bound to not experience significant growth. And, I mean, it's not, I can't say that's what inspired me and inspired my opinion, but, dude, that's just a great quote. I mean, that's a great chunk of quote here coming from a master. So, I mean, a lot of people sometimes, you know, they look at me and they're like, dude, you're not winning any tournaments. Who the hell are you, right? But this is coming straight from Daigo himself. And this is, I mean, that he says, he articulated what I've been wanting to say in a very, very strong way. And coming from a guy like him, it has that much more impact. So, yeah, I wanted to read this one because that is such a great quote. I love that quote so much. And it just basically, you know, embodies everything about what fighting games are. And I really like that line that every match is truly a battle against yourself above all else. So what I said earlier about, you know, fighting, trying to learn footsies and getting swept and immediately clamming up, that means you're not losing to the opponent, you're losing to yourself, right? Because you've reverted back to something because you're scared and now you're going to play tentatively and timid. The way to learn fighting games is to be brave, to run at things head on. I mean, dude, you watch guys like Vi play and, like, he's nuts, right? He just does crazy. In fact, Justin, I think I mentioned this, when he beat Dominion recently at the last tournament, you know, he said that he was just going to go crazy at Dominion because Ricky had a better record against Dominion than he did, and he always played defensive Rufus. So he went crazy on Dominion, lost pretty much 5 games in a row, and then it finally kicked in. And Justin stuck to the guns. He never stopped. Like, he was just jumping at Dominion all day. And he did this for 5 games in a row, and he almost lost the tournament because of it. But it finally clicked in after 5 games of just running face first in the flash kicks and fierces and stuff. And it paid off. And that's, again, he was fighting himself more than he was fighting Dominion. Most other players would have folded after losing 3 times or 2 times. They'd be like, okay, this is not working. I got to do something else. But he stuck to his guns, and it paid off for him. So there you go. Great quote from Daigo. So, I mean, that, we should just, like, put that on a plaque somewhere or something like that. And just, like, put it in the fighting game Bible or something. So... Alright, so a fellow by the name of Rogue B is asking me specifically about Akuma. He says that he's started playing Street Fighter AE about 2 months ago, and he really enjoys playing Akuma as his main, but he finds that he's very unforgiving to play in all matchups because his health is so low, and he feels like he's gotten better. His rating hasn't gone up, and in fact it's probably been dropping a little bit. And he said, is Akuma just not worth playing for someone so new to the game? Akuma is a little bit harder, yeah, for sure, but he is definitely learnable as a beginning character. He's not a super high difficulty character by any means. I find characters like Fuerte and God, there's another character, Gen. Gen is another super hard character. Even characters like Viper, because of Fierce Feint Fierces and stuff like that. I find them to be a little harder to use to start with than Akuma. However, Akuma does have the problem that he does have low health and you get blown up easily. If you're having trouble with Akuma, to be honest with you, I would learn Ryu. Pick up Ryu, learn how to fight with Ryu, and because they have very similar normals, they have very similar strategies, and you'll learn a lot of the ground games, you'll learn a lot of the fundamentals, and then you can go back to Akuma, and you'll suddenly start seeing where all of Akuma's deficiencies and strengths lie, compared to Ryu. I mean, I've always said Ryu is like the Mario of fighting games, right? Mario in all the Mario Karts and all the games, he's always like the guy whose rating is 5 across the board, right? He's not a 10, he's not a 1. Everything is, you know, good. And that's kind of how Ryu is. So whenever you use Ryu and then you start using other characters, you start finding the differences. Like when you play Akuma, for example, you'll find out, wow, my stand roundhouse works really good against some people. I didn't have this with Ryu. But then all of a sudden you realize, oh, it's nice that Ryu's low forward fireball is a true block string at closer distances, where Akuma's low forward fireball is never a block string. You know, you start learning little things like that. So that can definitely help. And the follow-up question that Rogue B has is that, more specifically, is Akuma just difficult for a lot of good players? He rarely sees Akuma in any tournament, except unless it's like Infiltration or Tokido or something like that. And yeah, Akuma is probably one of the hardest characters to play at the highest levels, because he's kind of like a slightly more tools version of Ryu. I've always said the same thing about Ryu. Look at all the top Ryus in the country. Alex Vai, Daigo, John Choi, right? I mean, these guys are all really super smart players. Whereas when you watch tournament, you'll see, you know, average Camis, you'll see average Fei Longs, you'll see average, you know, Zangiefs or whatever like that. You never see these average, like, Ryus a lot in tournaments, or average Akumas a lot in tournaments. They're there, but they're definitely harder to master because they require a different thought process than a lot of other characters. So, yeah, Akuma is a little bit harder to use, but at the highest levels, because he has so many tools, more tools than most characters, he's super good. He's super good. But by no means should you quit Akuma and try going for someone else. The only thing I would suggest is playing Ryu, because he can help you learn a little bit more fundamental game plan strategies without the problem of dying instantaneously, right? Also, another thing too is, I mean, I've always said, like, if you want to learn Akuma, one of the nice things maybe to do is just use Ultra 2 for a while. So that way you can just kind of teleport from wake-up games, and if they try to chase you down, just hit them with Ultra 2. But that's probably not exactly the best advice, because you probably want to learn how to use Raging Demon a little bit better in any case. So, okay, I'm going to take one more quick break, and then we'll come back, answer a few more questions, and then we will move on to level 3 focus with Ultra David. So stick around, guys.